Thanks for joining me. I'm Kiera Morgan on Pacific Northwest News and Entertainment with Coffee with Kiera, sponsored by The Human Bean in Newport and Lincoln City. And today my wonderful guest is County Commissioner Katie Jacobson. Hi, Katie.
Hi, thank you for having me. Yeah.
We're so glad you were able to carve out some time in your schedule. I know it's been busy for you.
Very, very busy, but I'm glad I can be here. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your, 5 months in now? 4.5.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about being a county commissioner and some of the things you've been working on.
Yeah, so I took office on the 7th of January. So yeah, about 4.5 months in. It is definitely an exercise in drinking from a fire hose and trying to drive a car at the same time, because despite all that new knowledge coming, you still have to move the county in a forward direction. So lots of learning, just learning staff and their names. There's one of me and 450 of them, so that certainly takes some time and learning.
Not everybody wears name tags.
Not everyone wears name tags, and we're spread out across the county. And there's a lot of workers we have, like the road department stuff, that aren't in a building. They are out working on roads, so it's challenging sometimes to connect with certain people. But learning stuff, learning about all the things the county does more in depth, and also learning about all the things that takes place behind the scenes to make all those things happen. There's a lot of awesome people we have that are kind of up front and dealing with the public one-on-one, but then there's a whole series of people and systems and processes that take place behind the scenes to make all those services happening. So understanding all of that, getting to know more of the community. I thought I knew everybody, but I'm learning I'm learning that despite growing up here and being from here and living and working here, there's still sections of the population I haven't met yet, so taking time to do that. And then also I'm part of the county college, which is a training program provided by the Association of Oregon Counties for all new county commissioners. So I meet with them basically 2 days a month. And I call it like commissioner boot camp. It's kind of learning about how to do your job, and then at the same point learning and connecting with all the other new county commissioners from across the state. Mm-hmm.
So you're also getting ready to go into budgets.
We are actually already in the middle of budget, where I would say we're 2/3-ish of the way through. So we had all of our budget committee meetings this week, and then we come back, I think 2 weeks from now as our final budget committee meeting, and then the Board of Commissioners will adopt that later in June. So we're, like I said, about 2/3 of the way through the process. The good news is that I think this year was a year that was fairly normal budget-wise. Not like a
normal and budget in the same sentence.
I mean, we didn't, we're coming out of the recession. We didn't have any huge cuts to revenue or anything like that, where we had to make hard choices. And at the same point, it's not like we ended up with an extra, $100,000 or $200,000. Well, that's not that much money, but anyway, it's not like we ended up with an extra, won the lottery in a county perspective and are figuring out what to do. The budget was fairly steady, and so it was, slowly increasing some services. We're still kind of climbing out of the recession, so still trying to gain back positions in FTE and services that we lost during that time. And that's not something that you can do all at once. It is a process where you slowly have to come back. And at the same point, having to replace technology and equipment and that kind of stuff, kind of normal wear and tear on things. So, yeah,
staying up on maintenance is important, but also having reserves is also important, right?
Very important, and we actually did increase our reserves this year, so that came up as well. So. Yeah, like I said, fairly, thank God, fairly kind of steady budget year, and I don't know if I want to say this, but thus far, the process has been pretty smooth, although, like I said, we're not through it yet, so.
So one of the things that when you became a commissioner, you were very passionate about, and you're still passionate about, is families and childcare and things like that. Is that something that you're still looking to accomplish?
Yes, so I'm still working, or I should say starting to work on childcare. and really diving into understanding what sort of the problems and barriers are to having more child care in Lincoln County. And it's a real quagmire. It's not a simple solution. And as people reach out and say, you know, what is the county doing? My response is, there is no way one entity, county or otherwise, is going to be able to fix this. This is really a community effort that has to take, similar to housing, and the fact that many, you know, state agencies, federal agencies, county, cities, nonprofits, etc., had to come together. I was just in Yachats yesterday doing a kind of open house event for Vistera Gardens that opened down there, and the person that ran the project said he had worked with 96 different organizations, businesses,
wow,
nonprofits to get that project going. 96, yeah. And you know, I give that example, while I hope it's not 96 for childcare, I hope, but I give that example because I think it's telling that this is a type of problem that's going to require a lot of different organizations and people and agencies to kind of come to the table, but I am starting to make some headway on that, and trying to understand how we both do some kind of like Band-Aid work on the issue, but then start having more of a long-range strategic plan for childcare in the county.
So we want to take a look at how the county is looking at climate change and working with your climate change partners.
Yeah, so the county actually, before I got in office, the county entered into a climate change partnership with some kind of local chapters of nonprofits here to be doing some work on climate change. The city of Newport also entered that partnership. And so there's several things that I should say the partnership is doing, things that those individual nonprofits are doing, and things that the counties are doing. So there's kind of these concentric connected circles. And so one of the things that's come up that I agree with is trying to create a kind of adaptation and mitigation plan for climate change here in Lincoln County, which basically means how are we as a county, I don't mean Lincoln County as the entity, but as the community of Lincoln County, how are we going to start adapting to some of the effects that we're already seeing here? That's something that I see can be funded by outside sources. I do feel like there's federal money for those kind of projects, so it's really I'm kind of pulling the right partners together and making a successful proposal to get that done, but that's something that would more of a mid-range to long-term goal. It'll take a while to get that piece together.
And let's talk a little bit about economic development. That's something that the county is also very involved with, and you do some economic development grants, right?
We do. Yeah, and I guess the first thing I would say about economic development is I actually see childcare as economic development.
Thank you!
Yeah, you're welcome. and I know that just from my own experience. You know, my ability to work and contribute, and my husband's and many others I talk to, is directly linked to childcare, and there's many cited published studies saying the same thing. So in my mind, childcare, working on that is economic development. But I'll put that aside. I'll step off my soapbox for a minute and go back to your regular question, which was that, yeah, the county does do quite a bit for economic development. And one of the things we do is the economic development grants. That is actually run through Economic Development Alliance of Lincoln County. Their board kind of runs those through, but then we, as the Board of Commissioners, once those applications go through the board with recommendations come to us, then we actually grant that money. And it's actually economic and community development. Those two things are smashed together within that cycle, so we get both economic development projects and kind of community development projects, which are different. Some maybe do both, but there are some different things within that.
So, Katie, one of the things that you also started doing, which I think is original for County Commissioner, is you have an office in Lincoln City. How is that going?
Yeah, I do have an office in Lincoln City. I actually take the mayor's office.
You're out.
Yeah, he offered it. It was very kind of him. So I'm at Lincoln City Hall. And I try to be there basically a day a week. Sometimes I'm up in Lincoln City other days for other things, but I try to have kind of office time up there at least a day a week. I think in the past there have been commissioners that did time up there, at least I've heard, but it's been a while. And I think there's, you know, the other two commissioners now go up for certain things or whatever, but I've kind of committed just to be there for a day every week. It's going really well. And, you know, people always ask, well, are people, you know, coming to see you? Is that time booked?
What I was going to say is, are you getting some folks coming in?
And I do have people coming in. It's not like open office hours. I do need to make appointments because I'm out in the community. I go to chamber lunch, or I just did a ride-along with Allison Robertson to go see all the urban renewal districts in Lincoln City.
Awesome.
So I'm not necessarily just sitting in the office waiting for people to come by.
She's not playing cards.
Yeah, I'm not playing cards, yes. So, you know, so I do encourage people to make appointments. But my other kind of talking point about that is whether or not people come to see me or not, and there's been days I've been up there where I didn't really have anything on my schedule, that's okay. I don't need my day to be booked to sort of validate being there. And so I just do my normal job in Lincoln City. So I do, you know, conference calls and check email and write stuff and do all the normal things I do when I'm in this office up there. So whether or not my day is booked or not booked, I still just kind of continue to do all the other things I need to be doing while I'm up there. So it's working well. I think the community has been really grateful for that, and you know, always gives me a lot of encouragement and thanks. And I'm getting to feel like I am starting to have another community now, which is nice. So I enjoy just meeting everybody and learning about them and all the stuff they're doing. So.
And just to clarify, the county commissioners do go to the other areas of Lincoln County at least once a year.
Oh, you mean for meetings? I
Yeah.
would say we're in other parts of the county
meetings.
all the time. Yesterday I was in Walport, Yahas, and Toledo, and Newport, all in one day.
Wow.
So we're moving around, you know, constantly. But in terms of meetings, of our Board of Commissioners meetings, we have a joint session with each city, including the tribe, once a year. And we're maybe halfway through our process with that. We still have a few joint meetings to do. We also move our budget committees around the county as well.
And we're going to take a personal note.
Sure, yeah.
You just came back from an exciting trip. Let's talk about that.
I did. So my husband and I just took our 13-year-old daughter to London. So, and actually I shouldn't really say London. We flew into London. We only stayed in London about a day and a half, and then we went out into the Cotswolds, which is kind of the English countryside. And that was my daughter's first time out of the country, so kind of big doings for her. Yeah.
So what was it like? Did you notice, you stayed in the countryside, did you see any comparisons to our county?
You know, to me it looks a lot like a mix between the Coast Range in some places and the Willamette Valley. Definitely reminded me of Oregon, you know, very green, very wet, you know, very pretty, and definitely the Willamette Valley for me, especially sheep, you know, sheep in the Willamette Valley, sheep in the English countryside. Couple of differences though. For one, their roads in the countryside are like the size of what I would consider like a bike trail. You know, paved, but super small. For two lanes, and very similar to when I was in Scotland several years ago. And then, you know, very small, and then on either side is usually either a giant hedgerow, which is bushes, stickery bushes, or a rock wall, or both. So there's really no shoulder to speak of. My husband Mark did all the driving, so amen. That I was the navigator. He did excellent. He did like phenomenal driver. But there definitely was some harrowing driving experiences through that. But you know, a lot of small little rural communities that we went through. You know, rich, neat history. You know, the thing that always surprises me when I kind of leave the United States and go into Europe or go into other places is just how old some of their structures and buildings are. You know, when something hits 100 years here, there's like, you know, a big celebration, and we document that, and it's the National Register of Historic Places. You know, it's a big deal, and over there, 100 years is like,
Wow.
You know, so just really neat to see, you know, see all the old stuff and understand the history, and yeah, fun.
What was your favorite food? Fish and chips?
I did eat fish and chips there because I mean,
You
just
have
kind of have
it's,
to.
It's like mandatory.
You kind
right?
of have to, even though I prefer Oregon seafood. I just kind of have to. But I think the favorite thing I had probably when I was there was in a pub in the small town in Paineswick that we were staying, and they had a leek risotto, and that was, I mean, not super traditional, you know, food, but that was my favorite thing I ate when we were there. And the other thing that was pretty phenomenal is I'm a big fan of cheese. Love really good cheese. My son Emmett, who's 8, is a big fan of like the aged cheeses, you know. Cheddar does not suffice for him. So what I really appreciate there is just like at the like little cafes, like even there was a kind of castle ruins we visited. Think of it kind of like similar to maybe going to like the lighthouse or something like that. Little cafe there, fabulous selection of cheeses. The cafe deli. So just enjoyed having access to all of the cheese too. Yeah.
And you mentioned this is your daughter's first trip out of the U.S. What did she enjoy? Any ideas? Did she share?
Yeah, and you know, the reason I really believe that travel is a gift, and I also believe that I believe in trying to create my kids to be sort of global citizens, and realizing that life is, love Newport, love Lincoln County, but life in the world is a lot bigger than that. And I also think it's really important for them to understand that regardless of where you go in the world, people are people. And we all really want the same things, regardless of our culture. We want to be safe, we want to be happy, we want to be able to provide for our families. You know, that's just a universal thread that binds us all as humans, regardless of where you go. And so I think exposure to different cultures and traveling is something that's important for me as a mom to provide. And I sort of felt like my daughter was at that age where she could understand it, she could appreciate it, and maybe the attitude wasn't going to kill us along the way going overseas.
13.
So, yeah, she did great. You know, we had many lectures kind of leading up to it about, like, we're not going to be dealing with food. Like, if we're hungry and we're eating and there is what there is, we're not, like, you know, running all over wherever to find something.
We're not going to go looking for McDonald's.
Yeah, you got to eat what you're going to eat. And that's just how it goes when you're traveling. Whether you're traveling in the U.S. or traveling anywhere, it's just like, this is what's available. You're in the airport. There's limited choices. Suck it up, you know? So she did fabulous, never complained, and ate some really interesting things that I was kind of like, as a mom, you want to be like, oh my God, you're eating that? You know, but you're just like, well, good for you. Squid and ink sauce, that's awesome. How's it taste? And I'm thinking, I can't believe she ordered that. She did great.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And I think the thing she most enjoyed was just, you know, it's the same thing I remember when I first started traveling and I was about her same age. Just the subtle differences. You know, as far as a cultural difference, I think the United States to the UK, it's different, but it's not like this huge difference. You know, going to Japan and places like that, that is a huge transition. And so it's a little more subtle, I think, in the UK, but for her, just noticing those little differences, you know, like what they put on a sandwich, and just different things that culture uses, different sauces they have, and driving on the different side of the road. I won't say wrong because they pointed out that it's not wrong to us, you know.
Wrong to them,
yeah. And so, you know, just language differences, even though it was English, just different words, you know, they say like trousers and stuff like that. You know, I think that's what she enjoyed, is just, you know, just seeing the subtle differences. And then she actually really enjoyed his history stuff, which I wasn't sure she would. And then the big highlight for her was the Tate Modern Museum in London. She's definitely an arts.
Yeah, I saw on your Facebook post, or Mark's Facebook post, that you guys were a little nervous as to how she would want, you know, react and want to go, and she was gung-ho, and the pictures were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just phenomenal. Thank you, Mom.
Yeah, he's the one that does all that. Yeah, she she's really a kid that loves art and drama, and I think the Performing Arts Center and Oregon Coast Council for the Arts has had a profound impact on her life, profound impact. And I feel like all of that was this base for her to be able to grab at and understand a lot of the art stuff we did while we were in London. She had never been to like a large modern art museum like that. You know, modern art is it's not my thing. I can appreciate it, but it you know, as I was sort of joking with Mark and Simone when we were there, I like the bowls of fruit and the old fat ladies paintings. That's kind of where I like that stuff. You know, but Simone really enjoyed all the modern art, really enjoyed it, got into it, sat and really, you know, watched the videos that they had and really pondered the artwork. So it was neat seeing her just enjoy that. I think that was a seed that was planted, and we'll see more stuff come out. We also toured the Shakespeare Globe Theater, which is the round theater. It's not the original Shakespeare Globe Theater. The Puritans burned that down many decades ago, is what we learned. But having been in Shakespeare camp for many years at the Performing Arts Center, it was really neat for her to see, you know, where Shakespeare, you know, kind of originated and how plays were done traditionally, and and many of the plays that our guide was sort of talking about she had been in, so it was a really cool moment to see all that kind of connect for her. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Katie, thank you for sharing with us a little bit of your personal and family life as well as your commissioner life.
Yeah.
And is there anything else that you want to talk about of something that you're working on or that you're doing or looking forward to this summer?
Yeah, I guess one thing I would say that I've been working on, it's not maybe a super sexy project, but I'm certainly excited about it. It's one of the things that when I first got to this building, it was actually a maintenance worker that was in here painting this office, the lovely shade of yellow it is. And he said to me, you know, Katie, there's no sign on the outside of the building that says courthouse. And I was like, no, that's not, no way. And he's like, no. He's like, I'm serious. He's like, go walk. Like, now, go walk. I was like, okay, you know. So I went outside and walked completely around the building, and he was correct. There is not. There is signs that say public entry, but it doesn't say what you're entering. And then having additional conversations, jail staff did tell me that at least a couple of times a week someone ends up in the jail, like, kind of like, I'm here to, you know, pay my property taxes or get my passport. This isn't maybe looking right. So I am working on both internal and external building signage. So getting the courthouse well labeled, but then also inside we have so many different services and programs that we have in here, and making sure that people know where to go once they're inside the building. And also we have a lot of services that aren't in the courthouse that are in other buildings.
I was just going to say, there's also, you know, the road department is here. And
transit services in different places, surveyor's
Health
office.
and Human Services are somewhere else, and now child services are also in another building, and
we are spread out. So like I said, I'm kind of starting with the courthouse and trying to get consistent signage here, and then probably trying to move out to our other buildings and make sure we all match kind of from a marketing end there. But that is something that I'm working on now. Like I said, not necessarily exciting to others, but I'm excited about it because I feel like you know, access to services, it's something we talk a lot about, something we value at the county, and it starts with knowing where to go. And if you don't know where to go, then you're not going to be able to access that. So
that is really important. And another really fun thing that you did, and important, as one, well, you and the other commissioners, you don't act alone, is the blue line.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking out the window and I was like, oh yeah, talking about parking and going around, and we have that right there.
Yeah. I will say Commissioner Hall and Hunt and former Commissioner Thompson, they're the ones that did it, but I think it was my very first BOC meeting that I got to take credit for it, even though I wasn't really involved in creating it. But yeah, we have a blue line, it's called Blue Line for Safety. It's in the courthouse parking lot, and basically if you are doing a Craigslist deal or Facebook Marketplace, or even maybe an exchange of kids, you can come here. We have basically 2 parking spots next to the building in blue. That's why they're called Blue Line. you pull in. We actually do have cameras on there, so it's safe. You're next to the courthouse, and so that way you can make sure those exchanges go well and that they're monitored. So.
And that's really great. And I know that Toledo Police Department has also implemented Blue Line Safety Zone next to their building there for the same reasons. And we'll follow and see if it comes up in Lincoln City as well. Katie, anything else you want to add as we wrap up?
Just thank you for coming and chatting today. It's been great. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us for Coffee with Kiera, sponsored by The Human Bean on 6th Street and Highway 101 in Newport, and in Lincoln City off Highway 101 at the north end of Lincoln City.